development finance institutions and export credit agencies in closing the global trade finance gap and the need to accelerate digitalization and fintech solutions to improve access to trade finance. Delegates take a guided tour of Bharat Diamond Bourse in Mumbai on day one of Trade and Investment Working Group meeting as India ranks first among top exporters in cut and polished diamonds. Day 2 of the second Environment and Climate Sustainability Working Group meeting in Gandhinagar focuses on a framework and best practices for land restoration under G20 Global Land Initiative. Delegates share knowledge on biodiversity, land degradation and ecosystem restoration. Day 1 of the second Infrastructure Working Group meeting in Visakhapatnam focuses on financing infrastructure for cities of tomorrow to make them more inclusive, resilient and sustainable and promoting quality infrastructure investments. The first G20 Trade and Investment Working Group meeting began in Mumbai today. The aim of the three-day meeting is to provide concrete solutions for mitigating the growing trade finance gap. 100 delegates from G20 member countries, invitee countries, regional groupings and international organizations are discussing ways to accelerate global trade and investments. While delivering the keynote address at the opening session of the meeting, Sunil Bharatwal, who is the Secretary in the Department of Commerce and Industry in the Government of India, said that the global financial situation is a cause for concern. Many countries are facing recession and there are signs of stress in the banking sector as well. Hence, this is the time to deliberate and provide concrete solutions for mitigating the growing trade finance gap. He pointed to reforms and innovative measures taken up by the Government of India in the past few years, which are making trade and investment opportunities more inclusive. And that brings us to the Indian presidency's priority areas in the realm of trade and investment. As far as India's G20 presidency is concerned, they are inclusive trade growth, helping MSMEs gain through trade, addressing post-COVID disruption in global value chains and WTO reforms. As G20 President, India aims to build a shared understanding of the challenges being faced and accelerating global trade and investment and how existing opportunities can be tapped for human-centric concrete outcomes. The first session of the International Conference on Trade Finance highlighted the role of banks, financial institutions, development finance institutions and export credit agencies in closing the global trade finance gap in Mumbai. It must be noted here that trade finance is the lifeblood of cross-border trade, and in 2020 an estimated $9 trillion of trade finance transactions were supported by major global banks. Yet the trade finance gap is widening, and that is a source of concern. As estimated by the ADB, the gap, which was $1.5 trillion in 2018, has now increased to $2 trillion. Also, DD India correspondent Shama Mishra spoke to Professor Andreas Classen of Offenburg University in Germany on the challenges in the domain of trade finance that was discussed in the conference in Mumbai. Take a listen.
The Trade and Investment Working Group meeting is currently on in Mumbai, and we have Andreas Classen of the Offenburg University from Germany. Andreas, welcome to DD India. First of all, you had a session on the first day itself on the International Conference on Trade Finance. What were the kind of deliberations or the discussions that you had in that first session?
I think it was a very important discussion. We basically looked at the challenges of trade and trade finance, how we can overcome that. I think the panelists were really, really great because I think there were different perspectives. We looked at the multilateral development banks, the private sector, but of course also how government institutions could step in.
When we're talking about challenges, what is the major challenge or what are the major challenges that the world is facing currently in terms of trade and finance and investment, and what could be the possible solutions to that?
Yeah, it's a very, very tricky question, I have to say. So I think, first of all, we are in a world of polycrisis. It's a disruptive environment, as we know, and unfortunately, trade growth is expected only to be 1% this year, which is very, very low. In addition, we have a large trade finance gap, and it's unfortunately growing. So about $2 trillion US. There is a significant gap for particular medium and small enterprises. And number three, other institutions have to step in and they have to fill that gap. And I think that's one of the solutions as well. So how can we create platforms, networks, ecosystems that public and private institutions can work together? How can we digitize trade and make that easier? And also how can we think about the new challenges such as climate finance and really use trade and combine that with innovation or climate action to solve that issue?
The priority topics that India has chosen for this year's G20 and the first meeting itself, how do you find those topics?
I think they're absolutely relevant. I think it's a very important part of the G20 discussion. I think India has a great opportunity to push the agenda, and I think there are high expectations regarding what your government can do and what the country can contribute to the G20 discussions.
So lastly, how is India's presidency and how do you find the hospitality of the country?
I have to say I'm really impressed. It's a lovely country. There are wonderful people, and I could feel it from really the first second when I landed last morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, and also now I can feel that it's a wonderful country and I will definitely be back.
All right, thank you very much, and we hope that you'll be back soon. So he listed definitely all the challenges and the possible solutions to it, and the similar way this whole working group, the Trade and Investment Working Group, is actually working towards finding solutions for the entire world's trade and finance and investment related challenges. With camera person Suresh Kale, this is Shama Mishra for DD India, Mumbai.
The first Trade and Investment Working Group meeting also saw deliberations on accelerating digitalization and fintech solutions that can improve access to trade finance. Panelists focused on trade finance digitalization trends and how digitalization can accelerate innovation and efficiency in order to make trade finance accessible for firms, particularly the medium, small and micro enterprises. The panelists during the session discussed in detail how digitalization can accelerate innovation and efficiency to make trade finance more accessible for firms, particularly MSMEs. DD India spoke to Ketan Gaikwad, who is the Managing Director and the CEO of Receivables Exchange of India Limited, on how digitization and fintech solutions can give a boost to the MSME sector. Take a listen.
There are a lot of corporates who want to come on the platform and do the discounting on the platform because it's eased up the way of doing business in the sense. Earlier there was a lot of resistance. Pehle zara resistance tha to coming on the platform, but once they have started realizing the benefits of lower rate of interest, market price discovery, so that is very important for the corporates also because they are also trying to save every penny. And in today's world, when you have the MSMEs, which are the weakest link in the entire supply chain, if you support the MSMEs, the weakest link, that is as good as your supply chain is as strong as the weakest link. So that's why what we have seen is a lot of focus is there on supporting the MSMEs coming on the platform and getting started. There are corporates, there is a government push also. There is a RBI push, there is a Government of India push, there is a MSME department which is pushing up, Department of Public Enterprises pushing up to ensure that the corporates, the government institutions, state governments are coming. So there are two governments which are already gone live, Government of Goa, Government of Tamil Nadu. We are working with many governments to see whether they can come on the platform.
The first Trade and Investment Working Group meeting also saw deliberations on accelerating digitalization and fintech solutions that can improve access to trade finance. So one of the panelists who spoke on the issue was John Drummond, who is the head of Trade and Services Division of the OECD. While speaking to DD India, he said that though global trading system faces many challenges, digitalization can be the future of an inclusive and sustainable trading system. Take a listen.
John Drummond of OECD is with us. John, welcome to DD India. You were in the panel discussion where digitalization and accelerating the fintech all were discussed. What do you have to say, and what could be the gist of the entire session?
Well, we're very happy to be in Mumbai for these very important discussions. We know that the global trading system faces many challenges in terms of recovery from COVID and ongoing international disruptions. We also know that global economic recovery has been limited, and trade has an opportunity to drive that recovery and to ensure inclusive economic growth for everybody around the world. The important thing about the meetings this week is the G20 Trade and Investment Working Group has the opportunity to demonstrate leadership, to send positive messages about keeping markets open, about making trade more inclusive for countries at all levels of development and for small and medium-sized enterprises, and also about making sure that the benefits of digitalization, which creates so many opportunities, are actually seized upon, so that government policy doesn't make things more complicated for business by fragmenting different markets, but rather by working together creates conditions in which firms and countries at all different levels of development can prosper.
Also, we heard one of the speakers saying that digitalization is the way forward. Paperless, we have to go paperless if we are to, give a boost in the trade and investment. How do we go about it? And also, when you've spoken about the MSMEs, there's another priority area that we are going to discuss over the next 2 days, which is integrating MSMEs. So, what do you have to say on that? Given the fact that India has a huge sector of MSMEs.
So digitalization really can be the future in terms of an inclusive and sustainable international trading system. We see that already digitalization has created possibilities for more trade in traditional goods and agriculture, but also more complex goods where you have now embedded services and different technologies inside what is traded, but also cross-border data flows are also very important in terms of services that are delivered from one country to another in a digital format. In order to seize those opportunities for this digital revolution to contribute to economic growth, countries need to work together to have clear and predictable rules and an international trading system that's rules-based and creates an environment where companies are comfortable investing across borders and also developing new technologies that will drive this economic growth. And so for small and medium-sized enterprises can be some of the biggest beneficiaries of digital trade, because the digitalization of cross-border procedures and processes today, you have sometimes 30 or 40 different forms and documents need to be filled out. It's a barrier to entry for small companies and small governments. The digitalization and the streamlining of these procedures can make international markets more accessible to small and medium-sized enterprises, and also, as I mentioned, to women-owned and women-led firms who are some of the companies that participate less in international markets.
All right. Thank you very much for talking to us. So that was John mentioning that the challenges that the entire world is facing, and there are possible solutions to it, and this particular trade and investment working group meeting will definitely come and reach to a possible solution that could be taken further for the G20 leaders declaration. With camera person Suresh Kale, this is Shama Mishra for DD India, Mumbai.
DD India correspondent Shama Mishra also spoke to the chairman and managing director of Export Credit Guarantee Corporation of India, M. Senthilnathan, who said that digitalization is the future of trading and can address most problems related to making trade finance accessible to all. Take a listen.
We did see the first day of the working group of the trade and investment working group happening today. You summarized the entire 2 sessions. What do you want to say, a gist of the whole 2 sessions?
The gist of the whole session is that digitalization is the way forward. Maybe it will address the most of the problems that is facing, if not all, most of the problems that we have in making trade finance accessible to all and making more players come into international trade, so that the prosperity can spread wide and far. That can be addressed if we can move to a digitalized form of trade.
Also, so India has been all the time emphasizing on digitalization, and India is also going to showcase a lot of schemes that India has already utilized and doing it in our own country. How do we share the best practices to the world?
The COVID-induced encouragement towards digitalization is across the world is happening. So the best practices will have a very bright future. So governments all over the world look for best practices so that the cost effectively it can reach all the sections of the society. In fact, the India's initiative in making payment system very digital world has attracted attention of even most of the developed economies. Maybe if it is adopted in more countries, you will find even international remittances coming, the cost of remitting funds from one place to another place by immigrant earners will come down drastically. That will also provide a fillip. So like that, if our open network democratic commerce proved successful domestically, provides a platform to standardize, harmonize international trade procedures and documentation. So then the benefit can be shared by all.
So are we going to discuss that in this particular meeting?
That is a government-to-government discussion, it's in camera, so I think it is a possible discussion.
Delegates on day one visited the diamond industry at Bharat Diamond Bourse in Mumbai. Remember, Indian cut and polished diamond export business is spread in more than 52 countries, with major destinations being the USA, UAE, Hong Kong, among others. India is a pioneer in cut and polished diamond sector. In Bharat Diamond Bourse, delegates visited India Diamond Trading Centre, Security Command and Control Centre, Gemological Institute of India, Precious Cargo Customs Clearance Centre and other important installations in the premises. DD India correspondent Shyama Mishra spoke to some of the delegates on their guided tour.
The Trade and Investment Working Group delegates were taken today to the visit of Diamond Bourse here at Bandra Kurla Complex, and they were given a guided tour about how the industry, how this particular industry works. How was your experience and what did you learn about the Bharat Diamond Bourse?
First, to say that, we discovered a lot about what this company is doing regarding the diamond, industry, and also the experience that will help. We can learn from what has been done here by some African countries. I even asked the CEO himself about the collaboration that he has with African countries. He mentioned South Africa, he mentioned Botswana, and also there is a lot to learn, especially in the area of technology, training for our own people, because now what we have learned is that Africa should make sure to transform its own raw materials locally. So this is one of the good experiences that we have learned during our visit here.
What did you understand about the working of Bharat Diamond Bourse, and also that a lot of action happens from here?
Well, first of all, I think I'm very much impressed by the whole setup, but also the integrated approach, right? Because of course, quite a lot of things happen here, but you can see that diamond comes from several parts of the world. So it's a kind of shared value process, because some transformation takes place here and then go to different countries, and then but one thing I also very much like here was the social aspect of the businesses that are here. Actually, I think it's Finstar. The presenter spoke about their corporate social responsibility aspect, which is very important.
It was fantastic, a real eye-opener, and a really quality experience to see how the world can do the same as India. The security, the job satisfaction, the quality of product that's coming out is really incredible. So congratulations.
Did you get to did you have an opportunity to have pani puri over here?
Not yet. Not yet.
Well, we learned a lot about how you operate here, which was fascinating, your inner security systems, the trade in general, and how it's sort of a one-stop shop, which is super interesting as a trade person. So very interesting to share that with us, the delegation.
Yeah, quite impressed, to be honest. I didn't know this. That all of those operations happen here, and it's quite impressive to see how it operates and how everything's organized and all the processes are streamlined. So yeah, that was quite impressive.
From Mumbai, let's shift to Gandhinagar now. On day 2 of the second Environment and Climate Sustainability Working Group meeting in Gandhinagar city, delegates acknowledged the significance of integrated water resource management and building resilience against climate risks. The focus was also on a framework and best practices for land restoration under the G20 Global Land Initiative. Delegates shared their knowledge on biodiversity, land degradation and ecosystem restoration. A presentation on Namami Gange was a part of the Environment and Climate Working Group meeting in Gandhinagar. Najib Ehsan, Senior Communication Manager of National Mission for Clean Ganga, spoke with DD India correspondent Meghna Dev on the interest that delegates are showing in the Namami Gange project. Listen in.
A presentation on Namami Gange was a part of technical session at day 2 at this Environment and Climate Sustainability Working Group meeting in Gandhinagar. So we are here at the Jal Shakti Pavilion and at the stall where Namami Gange and the project and what the project encapsulates is presented to the delegates so that they understand more about what Namami Gange actually is. We are joined in by one of the people who are here to explain to the delegates what exactly this project is about. Sir, please tell us what are you explaining here to the delegates, what are their queries and what are they curious to know about?
Actually, we are trying to highlight the main aspects of the Namami Gange project, which is Nirmal Ganga and Aviral Ganga. So during the presentation, the two main aspects where we have achieved, what we have achieved during last couple of years, what is our strength in terms of achieving the goals of Nirmal Ganga and Aviral Ganga, those were explained. And in terms of international recognition, because recently we have been recognized as the best 10 restoration programs by the UN. So those aspects were also covered. And apart from Nirmal Ganga, Aviral Ganga, there is aspect of Gyan Ganga also and Jan Ganga also. Yes. So under these components, what are the different measures which are being taken by the Namami Gange project? Especially you can see like biodiversity, ecological biodiversity of the river has improved. And the sighting of dolphins has increased over the couple of years.
Symbolically see at this exhibit at the Jal Shakti Pavilion dolphins, which is called a Gangetic River dolphin, as well as Gharial. That has been portrayed here at this stall. So what exactly, are there any questions from delegates about how this ecosystem has revived or been restored?
Yes, because like we are trying to portray this thing, this conditions have improved. So they were really curious to know to what areas it has extended, whether it has moved to other areas also, and what measures we have taken. So with our partner organization, SIFRI, Wildlife Institute of India, we have tried to teach the communities also, as well as scientifically also we have tried to protect them. And due to improved water quality of the river, the dolphins have moved from their secure areas to the other areas of the river.
Right. So any kind of feedback that you have been getting from the delegates during the interactions while they were visiting in the stall?
Yes, they are very positive in terms that they have seen that latest technologies are being used for protection of the river. And in future, like we have a concept of Earth Ganga, so they are curious to know what we are doing under Earth Ganga. So under Earth Ganga, we have explained them that we have recently started all these activities under natural farming and development of tourism. All these things are being done. So as international cooperation, other countries are also supporting this project. So what they feel that this can become a role model for river conservation and river rejuvenation all over the world.
Absolutely. What we actually see while river pollution is one of the major concerns across the globe, Namami Gange project definitely at this platform is actually creating more interest amongst the delegates at the G20 meeting in Gandhinagar, which is on environment and climate sustainability. With camera person Umesh, this is Meghna Dev for DD India from Gandhinagar.
Day 1 of the second G20 Infrastructure Working Group meeting under India's G20 presidency concluded today in Visakhapatnam, and the meeting was attended by 57 delegates from 14 member countries, 8 guest countries and 10 international organizations. The meetings are aimed at furthering the discussions on the 2023 infrastructure agenda, and on day 1 of the meeting, discussions focused on flagship priority, which is financing cities of tomorrow, inclusive, resilient and sustainable cities, along with other priorities outlined in the 2023 infrastructure agenda. Science advisors of G20 and guest countries are gathering in Ramnagar in Uttarakhand for 3 days starting Wednesday. They will deliberate on inclusive science advices to be made to G20 leaders for the G20 summit. Earlier, 34 delegates from 17 countries reached Pantnagar to participate in the meeting in Ramnagar in Nainital district. Officers of the local administration welcomed them with flowers, the traditional cap of Uttarakhand and folk dance performances known as Cholia. And with that, we come to the close of this edition of India at G20. Thanks for watching.
सर आपका केवाईसी अपडेट करना है, नहीं तो अकाउंट और एटीएम कार्ड ब्लॉक हो जाएगा।
सावधान सावधान। 2.5 करोड़ का इनाम मुझे। देखिए, अनजाने कॉल्स, फर्जी ईमेल्स, लिंक्स और जाली ऐप से अपना पिन, ओटीपी, पासवर्ड कभी भी किसी के साथ शेयर न करें। आप रहेंगे सावधान तो नहीं होगा नुकसान। आरबीआई कहता है, जानकार बनिए, सतर्क रहिए।
Hello friends, good to see you again on In Conversation. Our guest today is Mark Sussman. He is the CEO of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The foundation is one of the largest philanthropic organizations in the world and is working in India for the last 2 decades in partnership with the Government of India, with various state governments and a lot of other stakeholders in the realms of healthcare, sanitation, gender equality, agricultural development and financial empowerment of the most vulnerable people. We will speak to him on foundation's work in India, on Bill Gates' visit to India and India's emerging leadership on the global stage. Welcome, Mark, to Doordarshan.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure is ours. Your visit to India comes close on the heels of the visit of Bill Gates, the co-chair of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, to India. What brings you to India this time?
Yes, well, very much it's partly follow-up to Bill's visit just a couple of weeks ago, where he had a chance to have a number of meetings, including with the Honourable Prime Minister, especially around India's G20 agenda. And I'm here to have a number of follow-up meetings around how we can help advance some of that agenda in key areas like the digital public infrastructure, which India has such a successful track record in building as a potential deliverable, and other areas like that, as well as meeting with a range of our partners because we do extensive work across India in areas like health and agriculture and financial inclusion.
So how has your visit been so far?
Been very good, very energizing. It's always good to be back in India, and there really is a dynamism and an energy that I can feel, and especially when it is looking at some of these areas like how you are using in innovative ways some of these digital financial tools in ways to advance the agenda of the poorest. These are things that we get excited about, because our goal and role as the Gates Foundation is to help ensure every person anywhere has the chance to a healthy and productive life. But we also think have tremendous potential to be models for other parts of the world to try and learn from that, starting with financial inclusion, but also looking at areas like health or education.
Talking of Bill Gates' visit, I thought that there was a lot of diversity during his visit. He'd been to Mumbai, to Delhi, to Bangalore, and besides that, he drove an electric rickshaw in Delhi. He went to an Annaprasan ceremony, he went to a God Bharai ceremony, he saw innovations firsthand, and you referred to his meeting with Prime Minister Narendra Modi, which he said was the highlight of his visit, quote unquote. And after the visit, in his Gates notes, he writes about how he is very, very optimistic about India's future and progress in terms of health, climate development, etc. What are your impressions of that meeting, of his visit as a whole, and also what do you think is at the heart of that optimism?
Well, remember, I was lucky enough to come to India last year. Bill had not been for 3 years because of the COVID challenges, and he's someone who's always been both a champion of India and Indian innovation, but also very excited to come and see what we can do and how we can partner. And I think coming through what has been such a challenging period for the world, where the world has seen massive setbacks, and particularly across a lot of the global south, we've seen actually increases in poverty, increases in more preventable child mortality. India has really been an exception in that context. Even though COVID obviously hit very hard, the Indian response on multiple levels, both the response in terms of Indian innovation and research and development in helping develop the vaccines and get them now over, I think, 2.2 billion doses to the Indian population and for the rest of the world, to pioneer new applications like the COVID app, which, believe me, we in the United States wish we could have something like that. We have a little paper-based card which still has my vaccine scribbled on it.
Right.
That you
That's
see,
encouraging to hear.
Yes, no, this is India as well. Looking at innovations now, again, sticking in the digital, things like the DigiLocker, that you're able to put multiple forms of your own identity in a safe space that is secure, that deals with your privacy, and that you can look at these other applications. It makes, even though there are still clearly huge needs in India, and the foundation will continue to be here for our entire lifetime. What it is and what gives Bill hope and what gives me hope and energy when you come is you see them being addressed with a sort of real dedication and application, and not just from the government, from civil society, from the private sector. There's just an energy which is infectious and frankly quite inspiring to be able to come back and remind us why we do the work we do at the foundation to try and help those most in need.
It's great to hear that. I was thinking about how the foundation is working a lot in the two states of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, which you call your priority states. In India, there was an aspirational districts program. There still is. It is very much being implemented. And then there was a more micro approach under the aspirational blocks program. And most of these blocks are also in those two states of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. So tell us about whether over the past 20 years of the foundation's work in India, you've seen some sort of a transformation, particularly in these difficult states, also priority states for you, and if you could cite some examples for us, because you've given us an overall picture of optimism, but if you look at the more difficult states, what is the kind of transformation that the foundation has helped bring about?
Yes, so, well, as the foundation, we work at multiple levels. Obviously, we work at a national level in partnership with the national government where we can, whether it's with the Ministry of Health, Women and Child Development,